Futures trading involves risk and is not suitable for all investors. Content provided in this segment is meant for educational purposes and is not a solicitation to buy or sell commodities.
Hello and welcome to Pasture to Pen, a new series brought to you by Ever.Ag Insights. Each week we will bring you news and updates on the ag markets with the intention of helping cattle producers manage their risk. I am your host, Michael Todd Rowen, and I'm coming to you live from my home office in the Texas Panhandle. Today, we are going to start with some futures market updates with my fellow broker and teammate, Trey Freeman. Trey, what are we seeing this week in the futures market?
This week, Monday, we saw a lower open after the cattle on feed report. It was a neutral report. I would have liked to see a higher close. Last week, we started to see a pullback in the cattle markets. It was a healthy pullback. Unfortunately, that coincided with a pullback in the financial markets as well. Some bank contagion, Silicon Valley Bank, I'm sure you've heard some of that. That accelerated the pullback in cattle futures. Crude was also down at one point. Last week, we're down $5 in one day. That tends to weigh on commodity markets across the board. But moving forward, I'd say pullbacks to be met with some buying support. Fundamentals aren't going to change. So the big questions moving forward, they're going to be, will demand hold up? And will financial markets stay intact, or will recession fears plague the market?
Sure. Very good, Trey. And I do like how you bring up fundamentals, because while you were talking, my mind kind of went to the fact that we're seeing cash kind of lead the way here. Would you agree? Would you agree that futures have taken a break and seem to be letting cash be in the driver's seat?
I'd agree. And moving forward, we do have some holidays coming up. So mid-April to about early June, we typically see good buying cash to remain intact and higher. So box beef, it's remained intact. We've been floating around that 280 price support there. So moving forward, we do have something to look forward to as far as higher prices.
Sure. Yeah. And I like how you bring up that box beef price, because, if you work your way back from the cutout, we've got a good choice select spread. We've got strong cutout prices. Then as you work back from there, our cash indexes, if you will, the 5 area weighted average for the live cattle, as well as the 12 state CME feeder cattle index, those are both strong. And at times last week, like you said, during this banking contagion, this stress on the financial market, we saw those indexes be above futures. The 5 area has very strongly been above futures. We've got live cattle prices on the hoof that are 163, 164, even up to 165. We like to see a strong cash market. Working all the way back to the feeder market, when you look at these auction barns, these sale barns, hands keep going up. Buyers are not afraid to buy. We're seeing feeder cattle prices in the 170s, anywhere up to the 210s, and in some cases beyond, if you're that bold. So we are seeing a lot of strength, like you said, in the box beef. But I think when you go down the supply chain, you're seeing strength throughout the cash market, even though we've had quite a bit of a futures pullback here.
Right. And I believe Packers are going to stay in the game, and they want to get cattle bought. Cutout has remained strong, and with the outlook as far as the inventory on hand moving forward, I expect them to stay in the game. Although we did see a little bit of a pullback in cash last week, that stemmed from the financial market scare. So moving forward, I do expect that to stay strong.
Right. And no whiff of herd rebuilding yet. I mean, we've had some timely rains. That's been great. But there's really not been a sign of heifer retention, even though we have had some weather pattern changes, as well as some pasture condition improvements. Now that we have brought up weather pattern changes and pasture condition improvements, this would be a perfect time to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Jake Kingsley. Jake is on our Feed Foundations team and is quite the whiz when it comes to the grain side of the equation. So, Jake, hello. How are you, sir?
Doing well this morning. Thanks for having me, MT.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you'd mentioned, so pasture conditions have improved a little bit in some parts of the country. I think up in your part of the world there in the Panhandle is probably the least improved, but back down my direction in central Texas, There's pretty good talk about the wheat crop down here is looking really healthy. Now, we had some cooler nights here this past weekend, but I think it was just warm enough to miss major damage on the stuff that's already out of dormancy and really growing well. So like you said, good pasture conditions down here that should help a lot of these cattle go out onto grass and off of hay and other stored forages. Additionally, we're seeing, as we've talked before, much better moisture conditions out west, particularly in California. There are a few spots that are getting too much rain and kind of doing some damage out there, but generally speaking, they're comfortable with what's coming along on their winter wheat crop out there. Their alfalfa crop looks good, and they've got enough water to put together a very nice corn silage crop. So that alone should help alleviate a little bit of forage demand, and a lot of the hay that we had been shipping from the plains states to the west to help satisfy their feed demand should subside a little bit this coming season. That ought to help your guys out here.
Excellent. Jake, you bring up rains in your part of the world in Central Texas. That's not the only part of the United States, particularly cattle country, that has seen a shift out of La Nina more to neutral as we work our way towards El Nino, which usually, Lord willing, leads to rain in the central part of the United States. How are wheat producers down your way feeling about planted acres, feeling about potential yield? How is the wheat crop coming up now that, for the most part, cattle have been pulled off and we're letting it really start to take off here? How does it look down your way? And then what are you hearing from our other hard-bred winter wheat states?
So down here in Central Texas, somewhere between Dallas, Fort Worth down to Waco and Temple, Taylor area up and down 35, these guys are pretty happy with what they've got. A lot of it's already at flag leaf stage or maybe just past that, as I had that conversation almost a week ago at this point. We've had pretty mild temperatures and we've had some fairly timely rains come through here. So these guys are pretty optimistic, at least in the central part of the state here, that they'll have good yields. They've got decent acres out here. Of course, we've got probably another 5 or 6 weeks until harvest gets to going, and you could have some significant weather impacts on this wheat crop in a matter of minutes with the wrong storm moving through. So it's not all said and done yet, but looking good at this point.
Excellent. That is excellent news. Trey, is there any update from Oklahoma north, or is it looking fairly similar, or hopefully it's not looking much worse?
It's still pretty dry. Western Oklahoma Panhandle, northern Texas Panhandle, southwest Kansas. It's still pretty dry. We're one day closer to a rain though, so trying to keep some optimism. But even the irrigated stuff out in the Oklahoma Panhandle where I'm from, it's struggling. We just need a rain. That's the bottom line.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. And that seems to be the case from even here south Amarillo on up. Is we need rain. We're making the pivots turn, but we need rain. Well, thank you for those final comments, Trey. Jake, thank you so much for being with us today. If you would like to hear more from Jake and team, please check out another show brought to you by our great Ever.Ag Insights team called The Grain Feed. That's going to do it for this first ever episode of Pasture to Pen. Thank you so much again, Trey and Jake, and to all of our Ever.Ag Insights crew. Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Corey. We had a wonderful time filming this. We hope you find it useful and insightful. Please be sure to hit that subscribe and alerts button for more episodes. And until then, stay safe and pray for rain.